Issue after 60, for supply, psychological signs, she's been emotionally unfulfilled. Male secrets. When a woman after 60 hasn't had real intimacy in a long time, she stops hiding it. Her body gives her away faster than her mouth ever will. If you know what to look for, you can spot a touch-starved woman in seconds. The sudden boldness, the unfamiliar warmth, the way she shares too much too fast. Those aren't personality traits. That's emotional starvation, unfolding right in front of you. Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Vernon again. In today's video, I will show you 4 subtle psychological signs that a woman is emotionally unfulfilled. Signs that most men miss entirely, but that reveal everything about the depth of her need for genuine connection. But before we dive deep into these 4 signs, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. If you're a man over 60 who wants real wisdom about love, dating, marriage, and the psychology of mature relationships, this is where you belong. Every day I bring you insights that most men never learn, even after a lifetime. Now let's ease our way into the first sign and uncover what most men never notice. 1. She frequently brings up sexual topics in conversation. You know what catches most men completely off guard? When a woman who's normally reserved suddenly starts making jokes about sex. When she casually drops references to intimacy into regular conversation. The issue when she brings up topics that used to be off limits, and she does it with a lightness that feels almost out of character. Most men think one of 2 things when this happens. Either she's directly flirting with me, or she's just being provocative for attention. But the reality is far more complex, and far more human. The issue when a woman hasn't experienced real intimacy or emotional closeness in a long time, her brain creates a compensation mechanism. She doesn't necessarily want sex from you specifically. What she wants is to feel alive again, to feel like that part of her still exists, to remind herself that she's still a sexual, desirable, vibrant human being, even if no one has treated her that way in months or years. This is dopamine-seeking behavior. Her mind is trying to recreate the feeling of being wanted, being seen, being connected to another person on a level that goes beyond polite conversation. And talking about sex, even in jest, even hypothetically, gives her a small hit of that feeling. It's like opening a window in a room that's been sealed shut for too long. I learned this directly from my own wife, years ago, during a period when life had gotten heavy. Work stress, family obligations, health concerns. The issue, not dramatically, not with fights or distance, just drift. And one evening, she started making these offhand comments about couples and movies, about passion, about what people do when they feel truly alive. At first I thought she was just making conversation, but then she told me something I'll never forget. The issue, she said. When I talk about these things, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm reminding myself that I'm still here, that I still have desires, that I'm not just a caretaker or a routine. I need to hear myself say these things out loud, because if I don't, I forget who I am. That hit me like a wave. She wasn't inviting me into bed. She was inviting me to see her again, to acknowledge that she was more than the role she'd been playing. There's a quote that captures this perfectly. "The body reveals what the mouth cannot bear to say," said the psychologist Vernon. The issue when a woman starts speaking about intimacy, she's not always asking for it. She's asking to be recognized as someone who still contains it. You don't assume it's an invitation. You don't dismiss it as nothing. You acknowledge it. You say something like, "It sounds like you've been thinking about connection lately." You create space for her to be seen without pressure, without expectation. That's the mature response. That's the response of a man who understands that emotional hunger isn't always about him. Have you ever noticed a woman in your life suddenly become more open about intimate topics, and later realized she was expressing something deeper? Drop your experience in the comments. Your story might help another man see what he's been missing. But sometimes, it's not just about what she says, it's about what she dares to reveal. You has to. She opens up about her desires, fantasies, or hidden needs. There's a moment that happens in conversation that most men don't recognize for what it is. She suddenly shares something deeply personal. Maybe it's a fantasy she's never told anyone. Maybe it's a confession about what she wishes her life included. Maybe it's a vulnerable admission about what she thinks about late at night when she's alone. And it comes out of nowhere, unprompted, as if some invisible dam just broke. This isn't casual conversation. This is emotional release. When a woman has been emotionally unfulfilled for an extended period, she doesn't just want to be seen on the surface, but she wants someone to see the parts of her that have been locked away. The desires she's never voiced, the dreams she stopped mentioning because no one seemed interested, the version of herself that used to feel vibrant and alive before life became routine and predictable. The issue: sharing these things creates a domain response in the brain. It makes her feel connected, even if only for a moment. It satisfies a deep psychological need to be understood, to be witnessed, to have someone acknowledge that she contains complexity and depth. This is why women who are emotionally starved often, it's not that she's inviting you into those fantasies, it's that she's desperate to feel like someone cares enough to hear them. And here's the critical distinction most men miss. Trust is not the same as invitation. When she opens up to you, she's trusting you with her inner world. She's trusting that you won't judge her, won't dismiss her, won't assume that her vulnerability is a green light for you to act. That trust is precious, and if you confuse it with romantic or sexual interest, you destroy it instantly. So how do you respond? You listen, fully and without an agenda. You thank her for trusting you without pushing for more or turning the moment toward yourself. You simply give her space to be real without trying to fix her or turn her vulnerability into something it's not. That's what a mature, emotionally intelligent man does. There's a truth here that the poet Rainer Maria Rilke understood deeply when he wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act just once with beauty and courage." When a woman reveals her hidden self, she's not asking you to rescue her. She's asking you to honor what she's shown you, to treat it with the reverence it deserves. And when words begin to spill out, the body often follows. 3. She increases physical touch more than usual. Pay attention to this, because it's one of the most misunderstood signals a woman can send. She starts touching you more. Her hand lingers on your arm when she's making a point. She brushes against you when she walks by. The issue: she finds excuses to adjust your collar, to touch your shoulder, to sit closer than necessary. And it all feels casual, almost accidental. Except it's not accidental at all. This is what psychologists call touch starvation, and it's a very real physiological. The issue: when a woman hasn't been touched with affection, intention, or intimacy in a long time, her nervous system starts craving it the way a starving person craves food. Human beings are wired for physical connection. Touch releases oxytocin. We are safe, valued, and not alone without it. We begin to wither emotion. So when a woman who's been touch-starved finally has the opportunity to connect with someone safe, her body instinctively reaches out. She touches longer than necessary. She finds reasons to be in your physical space. She creates moments of contact that feel innocent but are actually deeply meaningful to our nervous system. This isn't seduction. This is survival. This is her body trying to regulate itself, trying to remember what it feels like to be human in the presence of another human. And here's what every man over 60 needs to understand. Just because she's touching you doesn't mean she wants more. It means she needs connection. There's a difference. And if you misread that signal and escalated into something sexual or romantic without clear consent, you violate the very thing she was seeking, then safety. My close friend Daria, who's 66, told me a story that illustrated 8 years after her husband passed. She said she didn't even realize how much she missed being touched until one day at a community gathering, a man she'd been talking to briefly touched her hand while laughing at something she said. She said the sensation was so powerful that she almost cried right there. Not because she was attracted to him, but because she'd forgotten what it felt like to be touched by someone who saw her as more than just another face in the room. She started finding small reasons to stand near him, to touch his arm when she spoke, to create moments of contact, and he, to his credit, never pushed it further. He never assumed. He simply let her have those moments without turning them into something they weren't. That restraint, she said, made her feel more respected and more seen than any romantic gesture ever could have. What do you do when a woman increases physical touch? You honor it. You don't pull away and you don't escalate. You simply let her set the pace and check in gently. Something as simple as, I enjoy our conversations and I want you to always feel comfortable. You create a space where touch can exist without pressure. That's what consent looks like in practice. That's what respect looks like when you're dealing with someone who's emotional. And if this part of the video has opened your eyes, share it with another man who might need this kind of wisdom. Most men never learn how to read these signals, but not even after 60. Sharing it might help someone understand what he's been missing. Still, the strongest signal rarely comes from touch. It shows itself in something far more revealing. The way she reaches for your presence, even when she has nothing specific to say. #4. She subtly but repeatedly seeks your emotional attention. Here's the sign that most men never notice. Even though it's happening right in front of them, she starts checking in with you. She sends you little messages about nothing important. She asks how your day was. She shares random stories or thoughts that don't seem to have a point. She finds reasons to stay in contact, to keep the conversation going, to make sure you're still there. And it all feels so casual, so light, that you might not realize what's actually happening. This is what psychologists call emotional bidding. And it's one of the clearest signs that a woman is emotionally unfulfilled. Every time she reaches out, she's making a small bid for your attention, your presence, your acknowledgement. She's saying, without saying it directly, notice me, see me, remind me that I matter to someone. Women who are emotionally satisfied don't do this as frequently. They don't need constant validation because they're already receiving it from their lives, their relationships, their sense of self. But a woman who's been emotionally neglected, who's been living in a space where no one really sees her, will start creating these small moments of connection wherever she can find them. She'll text you about something trivial. She'll ask you for your opinion on something that doesn't really require an opinion. She'll share a memory or a joke that seems random, but is actually her way of saying, please engage with me. Please make me feel like I'm not invisible. And here's what breaks my heart. Most men either ignore these bids completely or respond with the emotional depth of a text message. Auto reply. Cool. Nice. Okay. They don't realize that what she's actually asking for isn't information. It's emotional presence. She wants to feel like someone is paying attention to her inner world, not just her surface-level words. The reason men miss this is because we're often trained to respond to direct requests, not subtle emotional cues. We wait for someone to say, I need you, instead of recognizing that, how was your day, can mean exactly the same thing when it's asked with enough repetition and vulnerability. You engage fully. You ask follow-up questions. You reflect back what she's saying. You make her feel like her thoughts and feelings matter to you, because they do. The issue, you say things like, that sounds like it really affected you, or I'm glad you shared that with me. You give her the emotional attention she's asking for without sexualizing it, without turning it into something transactional. You simply show up as a human being who sees another human being. The philosopher Martin Buber said it perfectly. When two people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is the electricity that surges between them. Emotional attention isn't a favor you're doing for her. It's the foundation of all meaningful human connection. And when you give it freely, without expectation, you become the kind of man who doesn't just attract women. You become the kind of man who makes them feel human again. Now you can save this video, Come back to it when you need a reminder of how to read the emotional language. The issue: these signs aren't just about attraction. They're about understanding the heart of another person when it's reaching out for connection. If you've made it this far, you now understand the 4 subtle psychological signs that a woman is emotionally unfulfilled. Emotional hunger doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it appears as humor, unexpected openness, or a hand that lingers just a little too long. A wise man notices the small things. He doesn't exploit vulnerability, he honors it. He doesn't jump to conclusions. He offers presence. And in that quiet steadiness he becomes something rare. A man who knows that real connection isn't built on tactics, but on the emotional intelligence to understand what's truly being asked for. The issue, Carl Jung once said, the meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When you respond to a woman's emotional unfulfillment with maturity, with respect, with form yourself into a man worthy of the connection she's seeking. The issue: what wisdom about connection or intimacy did life teach you the hard way? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be the insight another man needs to finally understand what's been right in front of him all along. If this video gave you clarity, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Go watch the other videos. Here, there's a library of wisdom waiting for you about love, relationships, and the psychology of connection after 60. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching till now, and see you in the next video.